Lancelot Andrewes, remembered 25th of September. Not a saint, but commemorated in the Church of England. Lancelot Andrewes was the top translator and overseer of the creation of the King James Version of the Bible. He was a remarkable scholar and priest. He held high office during both the reigns of Elizabeth I and James I, being Dean of Westminster, Master of Pembroke College, and Bishop of 3 dioceses. Though Andrewes never wrote literature, modern writers have called him one of the greatest literary writers in English. His sermons feel too stiff and artificial and are clotted with too many Latin phrases to appeal to most today, but they are also filled with strikingly beautiful passages. T.S. Eliot took a section of one of Andrewes' Christmas sermons and started one of his own poems with it, The Journey of the Magi. A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of the year for a journey, and such a long journey, the ways deep and the weather sharp, the very dead of winter. Andrewes served not only as the leader of the first Westminster Company of Translators, which translated Genesis to the second Book of Kings, but also as general editor for the whole project. He drafted the final form of such celebrated passages of the English Bible as the Creation and Fall, Abraham and Isaac, the Exodus, David's laments for Saul, Jonathan, and Absalom, and Elijah's encounter with the still small voice. Born in 1555 to an ancient Sussex family, Andrewes studied at Cambridge. Early in his life he sympathised with the Puritan cause, but over time he soured on Calvinist dogma and turned to more liturgical expressions of faith. He argued against the position that God had predestined any to be unconditionally saved or unconditionally condemned, and saw faith as not one of secure post-conversion salvation, but ongoing and freely chosen cooperation with God's saving grace. Ordained at 25, Andrewes worked his way up the ecclesiastical ladder to Dean of Westminster and chaplain to Queen Elizabeth, an ecclesiastical politician who it is said in the Roman Church would have become a cardinal. He was also a minister who was deeply engaged in pastoral care. He would wait every day, no matter how busy he was, in the transepts of his church, for any Londoner in need of solace or advice. Andrewes caught King James's eye as the perfect lead translator for the new authorized Bible for his kingdom. After all, the man spoke 15 modern and 6 ancient languages. This was largely due to his habit of returning to his family home for 1 month each year, and employing a master to teach him a language he had not encountered before. So sought after was he by scholars from around the world that Hugo Grotius, the great Dutch legal authority and historian, called meeting Andrewes one of the special attractions of a visit to England. Some have claimed that his consecration as Bishop of Chichester in November of 1603 delayed the start of Parliament by a day, and that thus he helped to foil the gunpowder plot. However, what is more certain is that he was asked to create a public act and service to commemorate the foiling of the gunpowder plot. This, therefore, formed the basis of the bonfire night celebrations which still mark the 5th of November around the country. King James showered Andrewes with honours and positions, had him preach often at his court, slept, it was rumoured, with Andrewes' sermons under his pillow, and even restrained from his habit of elaborate and near continuous swearing in conversation when in Bishop Andrewes' presence. A man of intense piety, who spent 5 hours every morning in prayer, Andrewes kept in his chapel a book of private devotions which, when published after his death, became a classic Anglican guide to prayer. The devotion that characterized him in private also suffused his preaching and writing. For although his preaching was always theological, dealing with every doctrine he felt would edify his congregations, He also understood theology as no abstract exercise or speculative indulgence, but an expression of intimacy between the believer and God. Andrewes' experience of God was not just spiritual, but visual and physical. He took an extremely realistic approach to the incarnation. The fact that God had taken on humanity in the person of Jesus Christ meant for Andrewes that not just our souls, but our bodies must take an active part in prayer. So he insisted on worshipping, falling down and kneeling before the Lord. Andrewes twice declined being consecrated bishop under the reign of Elizabeth I due to the conditions placed on it, but under James I he was made Bishop of Chichester, then Ely, and finally became Bishop of Winchester. Bishop Andrewes was a devout and clever man who combined a deep inner faith with outward acts of devotion, and a love of language and learning with care for his congregation. Andrewes died on the 25th of September 1626 at Southwark. He is remembered chiefly for his work as a lead translator and editor of the King James Bible, which has become one of the most influential and most quoted works in English. Lancelot Andrewes is remembered on the 25th of September.